You didn't turn this on by accident. Something inside you is tired of holding it together. Tired of thinking in circles. Tired of caring more than anyone sees. This is not motivation. This is not therapy. This is a place to finally put the weight down. Stay. Don't rush. If your mind wants to leave, that means this is exactly where you need to be. You're safe here. Nothing is required of you. Not productivity, not progress, not even understanding. Just being here, that's enough. For the next 2 hours, you don't need to be anywhere else. You don't need to fix anything. You don't need to figure anything out. Just listen and let something inside you soften. Part A, you are not broken. Chapter 1. Why your mind won't slow down. A restless mind is not a weak mind. It's an overloaded one. If your thoughts won't stop spinning, it's not because something is wrong with you. It's because your nervous system is still running on a speed it learned to survive on. And no one ever taught it how to slow down. You've been moving so fast for so long that stillness feels wrong. Dangerous, even. Like if you stop, everything you've been holding together will fall apart. So your mind keeps going, rehearsing conversations that haven't happened yet, replaying mistakes from years ago, scanning for problems before they arrive. It's exhausting. And the worst part? When you finally try to rest, that's when the thoughts get loudest. You lie down. You close your eyes. And suddenly your mind becomes a crowded room you can't leave. This isn't insomnia. This isn't anxiety. This is what happens when your nervous system has been on alert for too long. Stress doesn't turn off by itself. It doesn't fade just because the day is over. It lingers in your body like static electricity. In your jaw, your shoulders, your chest, your mind keeps running because your body still thinks there's danger. And here's the mistake most people make when they try to calm down. They try to think their way out of it. They tell themselves to relax. They remind themselves there's nothing to worry about. They try to logic their way into peace. But you can't think your way out of a nervous system response. Because the part of you that's scared isn't listening to reason. It's listening to signals, signals from your body, signals from your environment, signals that say not safe yet. Keep going, stay ready. And until those signals change, your mind won't slow down, no matter how much you want it to. This is why your thoughts are louder when you finally stop, because stopping feels like exposure. Like dropping your guard in the middle of a battlefield. Your mind interprets rest as risk. So it floods you with reminders, things you forgot, things you need to do, things that could go wrong, not because you're broken, but because some part of you is trying to protect you, the way it always has, and it doesn't know yet that you're allowed to rest. Chapter 2. Stress is not the enemy. What if stress is not attacking you but trying to protect you? Most of us have been taught to see stress as the problem, as the thing we need to eliminate, fight, overcome, push through. But stress isn't the villain, it's the alarm system. And it only stays loud when it believes you're still in danger. Stress is your body's way of preparing you for challenge, for threat, for survival. It sharpens your focus. floods your muscles with energy, heightens your senses. It's not trying to break you, it's trying to keep you alive. The problem isn't that stress exists, the problem is that it never turns off. Because the world we live in doesn't look like the one our nervous system was designed for. We're not running from predators anymore. We're running from deadlines, expectations, notifications, other people's moods. Threats that never fully resolve, dangers that live in our inbox, pressure that follows us into our sleep. And so the alarm keeps ringing. Not because something is wrong with the system, but because the system is doing exactly what it was built to do. It's responding to what it perceives, and right now, it perceives that you are not safe. So here's the truth most people miss: you can't fight stress into submission. You can't hate it away. You can't shame yourself into calm. Because fighting stress is just more stress. It's adding pressure to pressure, tension to tension. Your nervous system doesn't understand the difference between external danger and internal criticism. It only knows threat detected. And so it stays activated, tense, wired, ready. What actually works is different. It's not force, it's not discipline, it's not willpower, it's signal. Sending your body the message it's been waiting for: you're safe now. You can stop running. You can let go. Not with words, but with presence. With breath. With the kind of slowness that says nothing is chasing us anymore. And that's when everything begins to soften. Not because you defeated stress, but because you stopped treating it like an enemy. You stopped fighting, you stopped resisting, and in that space, that quiet, undefended space, your nervous system finally exhales. Chapter 3. The Lie of Just Relax. If relaxing were easy, you wouldn't be here. You've heard it 1,000 times. Just relax, don't stress, let it go. As if peace were a light switch, as if calm were a choice you simply haven't made yet. But you've tried, haven't you? You've tried deep breathing. Tried positive thinking. Tried telling yourself everything is fine. And maybe it worked for a moment, a brief flicker of relief. And then the tension came back. Heavier than before. Because here's what no one tells you: relaxation advice fails when your nervous system doesn't feel safe. You can't talk yourself into calm when your body is still braced for impact. You can't force softness when every muscle is holding you together. You can't just relax when relaxing feels like letting go of control. And losing control feels like falling, so you stay tense. Not because you want to, but because it's the only way you know how to keep standing. The truth is, most relaxation advice skips the most important step: safety. Your nervous system won't let you rest until it believes you're safe. And safety isn't a thought. It's a felt sense. It's the absence of threat. The presence of ground beneath you, the knowing not in your head, but in your body that nothing is about to hurt you, that you're not about to be judged, criticized, abandoned, overwhelmed, that you can stop performing, stop managing, stop holding everything together, and nothing will collapse. But if you've spent years in survival mode, safety feels unfamiliar. It feels uncomfortable. even boring. Because your nervous system has learned to associate calm with vulnerability, and vulnerability with danger. So when you finally slow down, your body panics. It sends up flares, restlessness, worry, the urge to do something. Not because something is wrong, but because stillness is the opposite of what kept you safe before. This is why just relax doesn't work, because it asks you to do something your nervous system hasn't learned how to do yet. Calm isn't something you force, it's something you cultivate. Slowly, gently, with patience. It requires more than a deep breath. It requires proof. Proof that you can slow down and nothing bad will happen. Proof that you can be still and you won't be abandoned. Proof that you're allowed to take up space without performing, without earning it, without being useful. And that proof doesn't come from a single moment. It comes from repetition, from small doses of safety, practiced over and over until your body starts to believe it. What calm actually requires is this time, presence, gentleness with yourself, and the willingness to stay even when staying feels harder than running. Because calm isn't the absence of feeling, it's the presence of groundedness, even in the noise, even in the uncertainty, even when everything around you is still moving. You learn to find the quiet inside, not by force, but by return, again and again, until your nervous system finally learns this is safe, this is home. Part 2, when everything feels too much. Chapter 4. Emotional overload. You're not dramatic, you're overwhelmed. There's a difference, and it matters. Being overwhelmed isn't weakness. It's what happens when you've been carrying too much for too long. When the gap between what's expected of you and what you actually have left becomes unbearable. You've been strong, you've been capable, you've held it together when no one else could. And now your body is asking you to stop, but you don't know how. Because stopping feels like giving up, so you keep going, and the weight keeps building. One more responsibility, one more worry, one more thing you can't say no to. Until suddenly something small breaks you, a minor inconvenience, a harmless comment, a dish left in the sink. And you snap, or you cry, or you shut down completely. And you think, what's wrong with me? Why can't I handle this? I used to be fine, but here's the truth: you've been in survival mode too long. And survival mode has a limit. It's not designed for daily life. It's designed for emergencies. For short bursts of intensity, run, fight, escape, and then rest. But you never got the rest part. You went from one crisis to the next, from one demand to the next. Your nervous system never got the signal that the danger passed. So it stayed activated, tense, alert, ready. And over time, that becomes your baseline. You stop noticing how much tension you're holding, how shallow your breath is, how tight your chest feels. It becomes normal. Until one day it's not, and suddenly small things feel unbearable. Because they're not small anymore. They're the final straw, the thing that tips the scale, the reminder that you're already at capacity. And there's no room left. This is emotional overload. It's not about the dish, It's about the 100 other things you're already holding. The decisions you've been postponing, the feelings you've been pushing down, the needs you've been ignoring, the conversations you've been avoiding, the quiet buildup no one talks about. Because overload doesn't announce itself, it accumulates. Silently, in the margins of your days, in the moments you didn't rest, in the times you said yes when you meant no, in the feelings you swallowed, in the anger you redirected at yourself. And now it's all here, not as one thing, but as everything, all at once. And you're exhausted, not just tired. Exhausted in a way that sleep doesn't fix. Because it's not your body that's tired, it's your capacity. Your resilience, your reserves, you've been drawing from an empty well. And now there's nothing left. This is not failure. This is what happens when you've been strong for too long. When you've carried more than one person should carry. When you've held space for everyone except yourself. You're not broken, you're overloaded. And overload has a solution. Not more effort, not more discipline, not pushing through. The solution is release, space, softness, letting some of it go. Not forever, just for now, just enough to breathe again. Chapter 5. The invisible pressure you carry. Some pressure is so constant you stop noticing it. It becomes background noise, the hum of your life. You don't realize how loud it is until someone asks you how you're doing, and you pause. Because you don't actually know, you've been so busy managing everything that you forgot to check in with yourself. So you say, "I'm fine," because that's easier than explaining. Easier than untangling the dozen different pressures sitting on your chest. But you're not fine, you're just normalized. To the mental noise, to the constant planning, to the low-level anxiety that hums beneath everything you do. You've been living with it for so long you don't remember what it's like to not carry it. This is the invisible pressure, the kind no one sees, the kind that doesn't show up on the outside. You still smile, you still function, you still show up. But inside, you're running 100 calculations at once. What needs to be done? What could go wrong? What people expect? What you forgot? What you should have said differently? What's coming next? Your mind never stops working, even when you're resting. You're not really resting. You're thinking about what you should be doing instead, and the pressure builds. Not from one source, but from everywhere. Expectations you never agreed to, standards you inherited, roles you didn't choose but somehow ended up in. The pressure to be productive, to be available, to be strong, to be positive, to have it together. To not be a burden, to not take up too much space, to not need too much, to be enough but not too much. No one told you to carry all of this, but somehow you are, and the cost is quiet. It's not dramatic, it's not a breakdown, it's the slow erosion of your energy. Your joy, your presence. You're always thinking about the next thing. Never fully here, never fully at ease. Because ease feels irresponsible, like if you let your guard down, something will fall apart, so you stay vigilant. You stay ready, you stay in control. But control is exhausting, and the cost of always being fine is that you forget what it feels like to actually be fine, to be light, to be unburdened, to move through your day without the weight of 1,000 invisible tasks sitting on your shoulders. This pressure doesn't need a solution. It needs acknowledgement. It needs to be seen, named, felt. Because once you notice it, you realize you've been carrying this alone, and you don't have to. You're allowed to set some of it down, not all at once, not forever, but for a moment. Just to breathe, just to remember what it feels like to not be holding everything together. Chapter 6. When rest doesn't feel like rest. If you rest but don't recover, something deeper needs attention. You sleep 8 hours and wake up exhausted. You take a day off and still feel drained. You lie down but your mind keeps running. And you think, what's wrong with me? Why isn't rest working? But rest isn't the problem. The problem is what you're still holding on to while you rest. Because there are 2 kinds of tired. Physical fatigue, the kind that comes from exertion, from moving, working, doing. That kind of tired is honest. You rest and you recover. But then there's the other kind, mental fatigue, emotional fatigue. The kind that comes from carrying too much in your mind, from worry, from vigilance, from the constant low-level stress of never fully letting go. And that kind of tired doesn't respond to sleep, because it's not your body that needs rest. It's your nervous system, your mind, your heart. When rest doesn't feel like rest, it's because some part of you is still working. Still scanning for danger, still rehearsing conversations, still managing problems, still holding tension. You're lying down, but you're not at ease. You're physically still, but internally, you're running. This is what happens when your nervous system doesn't feel safe enough to let go. When you've been in fight or flight for so long that even rest feels like a risk. Because rest requires surrender, and surrender requires trust. Trust that you can stop managing everything and it won't all fall apart. Trust that you can let your guard down and nothing bad will happen. Trust that you're allowed to stop. But if you've spent years believing that your worth is tied to your productivity, rest feels like failure, like laziness, like something you haven't earned yet. So even when you rest, you feel guilty, and guilt is just another form of tension, another thing your mind is holding. This is why sleep doesn't fix exhaustion, because exhaustion isn't just physical. It's the accumulation of everything you haven't processed, everything you haven't said, everything you haven't felt, everything you've pushed down in order to keep going. And now it's all still there, sitting in your body, waiting. When rest doesn't restore you, it's because you're not just tired. You're full of unspoken feelings, unresolved tension, unmet needs, and no amount of sleep will empty that. What your mind is still holding onto isn't something you can sleep away. It's something you have to release. Not by force, but by acknowledgement. By giving yourself permission to feel what you've been too busy to feel. To cry if you need to be angry if that's what's there. To admit that you're not okay, that you haven't been okay for a while. And that pretending otherwise is part of what's keeping you so tired. Rest that restores isn't just about closing your eyes. It's about opening your heart. to what's actually there, to what you've been carrying, and letting it be seen. Even if only by you, that's when rest becomes recovery. When you stop running from yourself and finally allow yourself to land. Part 7: The Nervous System Reset. Chapter 7. Your nervous system is listening. Your body believes your thoughts before you do. Every worry, every fear, every catastrophic imagining. Your body hears it all and responds. Not with logic, not with reason, but with preparation. For the danger your mind just imagined. This is how tension lives in the body, not as a thought, but as a signal, a tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, a clenching in your jaw. Your body doesn't distinguish between real threats and imagined ones. It only knows threat detected, and so it braces. It tenses, it prepares to fight or run, even when you're sitting still. Even when you're safe, because your mind told it a story, and your body believed it. This is why calming the body calms the mind, because the two were not separate. They're in constant conversation. Your thoughts create sensations, your sensations create thoughts. And the loop continues, unless you interrupt it, not with more thinking, but with presence. With attention to what's actually happening in your body right now, not what might happen, not what happened before, but now, in this moment. Where is the tension? Where are you holding on? What would it feel like to soften even slightly in that place? Not to fix it, not to make it go away, but just to notice it, to be with it. Because the moment you bring awareness to tension, something shifts. It's no longer invisible, no longer automatic. You've interrupted the loop, and in that interruption there's space. Space for a breath, space for a choice, space for the body to realize I'm not actually in danger right now. This is the foundation of calm, not thinking differently, but sensing differently. Letting your body know through presence, through breath, through gentle attention that it's safe to let go. Not all at once, but slowly. One exhale at a time, because safety isn't something you think your way into. It's something you feel. And your nervous system is always listening, always responding, not to your words, but to your signals. To the pace of your breath, to the softness in your posture, to the quality of your presence. And when those signals say safe, 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 your body finally stops bracing, your mind finally stops racing. And calm becomes possible, not as an idea, but as an experience, safety before silence, always. Chapter 8. How to interrupt the stress loop. Stress feeds on repetition, not danger. It's not the problem itself that keeps you anxious. It's thinking about it over and over. Replaying it, rehearsing it. Imagining worst-case scenarios. Your mind loops the same worry until it becomes a groove, a well-worn path your thoughts automatically follow. And every time you walk that path, you deepen it, until it becomes the default, the place your mind goes when it has nothing else to do. This is the stress loop. And it's not about the content of your thoughts. It's about the pattern. The repetition, the fact that your mind keeps returning to the same place, expecting a different outcome. But the loop doesn't resolve problems, it rehearses them. And rehearsal without action is just rumination, and rumination is fuel for anxiety. This is why awareness alone is not enough. You can know you're anxious, you can recognize the loop, you can tell yourself to stop worrying. But if you don't interrupt the pattern, your mind will keep following it, because that's what minds do. They follow the paths that have been carved the deepest. So here's the first real interruption, not more thinking. Sensation. When you notice you're in the loop when the same thought comes up for the 10th time, don't engage with it. Don't argue with it. Don't try to solve it. Just notice it, and then shift your attention, not to another thought, to your body, to your breath, to the feeling of your feet on the ground, the texture of the fabric against your skin, the sound of your own exhale. This is not distraction, this is redirection. You're teaching your mind that there's another place to go, another path to follow. One that doesn't lead to the same anxious dead end. And at first it will feel uncomfortable. Your mind will resist. It will pull you back because the loop feels important. It feels like you're solving something, like you're staying prepared, but you're not. You're just reinforcing the anxiety, so you redirect again, gently, without judgment, without frustration, just not this. Not now. And you come back to your body, to the present moment, to what's actually here, not what might happen. This is how you interrupt the loop, not by defeating it, but by choosing something else over and over until a new path starts to form. One that doesn't automatically lead to stress, one that leads to ground, to presence, to calm, and slowly, so slowly you might not notice at first, the loop loses its grip. It becomes one option instead of the only option. And you realize you're not stuck. You've just been walking the same circle. And now you're learning to step outside of it. Chapter 9. The Power of Slow Attention. Nothing calms the mind faster than being fully here. Not thinking about here, not analyzing here, but actually being here, feeling what's in front of you, noticing what's around you, letting your senses lead instead of your thoughts. This is presence. And it's the opposite of anxiety, because anxiety lives in the future, in the what-ifs, in the disasters that haven't happened yet. It pulls you forward into 1,000 imagined outcomes, none of which are real, but all of which feel real, because your body doesn't know the difference. Presence brings you back. Not by force, but by focus, by slow, deliberate attention to what's actually here. The weight of your body in the chair, the temperature of the air, the sound of your own breath. These things are simple, ordinary, almost boring, and that's the point. Because rushing keeps you anxious. Rushing is the language of emergency, of threat, of not enough time. And when you rush, your nervous system responds accordingly. It stays activated, ready, tense. But when you slow down, you send a different signal. You tell your body there's time. There's space. Nothing is chasing us. And that signal, that simple, embodied signal, is what allows your nervous system to relax. Not because you told it to, but because it felt the shift. This is how presence dissolves mental noise. Not by thinking quieter thoughts, but by not thinking at all, by being so fully here that there's no room for the loop. No room for the worry, no room for the rehearsal. Just this breath, this moment, this simple, undeniable fact of existence. You are here, you are breathing, you are alive. And right now, in this moment, nothing is wrong. Not because you've solved everything, but because you stopped living in the future. You stopped trying to control what hasn't happened yet, and you've come back to the only place you ever have any power now. This is what slow attention teaches you, that you don't need to be anywhere else. You don't need to be doing anything else. You don't need to be more than you are, right now in this moment. You can just be. Without effort, without performance, without the constant mental calculation of what's next. And in that space, that open, undefended space, something inside you finally softens. Not because you forced it, but because you stopped forcing. You stopped pushing. You stopped trying to be 5 steps ahead. And you just stayed. Here, with yourself, with this moment, with the quiet realization that presence is not something you achieve. It's something you allow, again and again, until staying becomes easier than running. Part of coming back to yourself. Chapter 10. When the mind finally softens. This is the moment people don't expect, when the noise fades. Not all at once, not dramatically, but gradually, like fog lifting. You might not even notice it at first. Just a slight easing, a breath that goes deeper than the one before, a thought that doesn't spiral, a moment where you realize, I'm not lynching anymore. This is what calm actually feels like. And if you've been tense for a long time, it might feel strange, unfamiliar, almost unsettling, because you've become so used to the noise that silence feels empty. You've become so used to tension that softness feels vulnerable. Like something is missing, like you forgot to do something. But nothing is missing, you're just not carrying it anymore. And that absence, that lightness, takes getting used to. This is why calm may feel unfamiliar at first. Because you've been braced for so long that letting go feels like falling, like losing something. When really you're finding something, you. The version of you that exists underneath the tension, underneath the constant vigilance, underneath the armor you've been wearing. That version was always there. You just couldn't feel it through all the noise. But now, as things quiet down, you start to sense it. A steadiness, a softness, a part of you that doesn't need to prove anything, that doesn't need to be on guard, that doesn't need to manage everything. It's the part of you that just is. And being is enough. This is the moment where you realize, I don't have to try so hard. I don't have to hold it all together. I don't have to be strong every second. I can rest, I can soften, I can let go. And nothing collapses. In fact, the opposite happens. Things start to feel clearer, lighter, more manageable, not because anything changed on the outside, but because you stopped fighting on the inside. You stopped resisting your own experience. Stop pushing against what is. And in that surrender, you found something unexpected: relief. Not the relief of solving a problem, but the relief of no longer needing to. Of no longer needing to control every outcome. Of no longer needing to be 10 steps ahead. Of trusting that you can handle things as they come. One moment at a time. one breath at a time. This is what people mean when they talk about peace, not the absence of challenge, but the presence of groundedness. Even in the uncertainty, even in the mess, even when you don't have all the answers. You're okay, not because everything is okay, but because you are, and trusting the quiet means learning to stay here. In this softness, in this ease, without needing it to be more, without needing it to last forever, just being willing to receive it, now in this moment, and letting that be enough. Chapter 11. Letting go without forcing. You don't let go by pushing, you let go by allowing. There's a difference. Pushing is control. It's effort. It's trying to make something happen. Letting go is the opposite. It's release. It's surrender. It's stepping back and allowing things to unfold without your constant management. And that's terrifying, because control feels like safety. As long as you're managing everything, you feel like you have some power. Some say in how things turn out, but the truth is, control is exhausting, and most of the time, it's an illusion. You can't control other people. You can't control outcomes. You can't control how things will land. All you can control is how tightly you grip. And the tighter you grip, the more tension you create. In your body, in your mind, in your relationships. Because control is not calm, it's fear in disguise. It's the belief that if you just try hard enough, you can keep everything from falling apart. But what if it's the trying that's keeping you stuck? What if the effort to hold it all together is what's actually weighing you down? This is why control increases tension, because it's resistance. It's fighting against uncertainty, against change, against the reality that some things are simply out of your hands. And fighting is exhausting, so what's the alternative? Allowing. Not giving up, not checking out, but softening your grip, loosening your hold. Making space for things to be as they are, not as you need them to be. This is how release happens naturally. Not through force, not through discipline, but through acceptance, through the willingness to say, I don't have to manage this right now. I don't have to fix this right now. I don't have to know how this ends. I can just be with what is. And that simple shift from controlling to allowing changes everything. Your shoulders drop, your breath deepens, your mind stops spinning. Not because the problem went away, but because you stopped carrying it like it was yours to solve in this exact moment. You let it be, and in that space, something unexpected happens, clarity. Not the forced clarity of overthinking, but the natural clarity that arises when you're not blocking it with effort. When you stop trying so hard, you start seeing more clearly. You start feeling more. You start trusting more. Not in outcomes, but in yourself. In your ability to handle whatever comes. Not by controlling it, but by meeting it. One moment at a time. This is the relief you've been postponing, the relief of not having to be in charge of everything. Of not having to have all the answers. Of not having to be perfect or prepared or 5 steps ahead. You can just be here. With what is imperfect, uncertain, unfinished, and still okay. Still whole, still enough. Letting go doesn't mean losing. It means releasing the weight of trying to control what was never yours to control in the first place. And when you do, you discover something surprising. You don't fall apart. You come back together. Softer, steadier, more yourself than you've been in a long time. Chapter 12. The safety of doing nothing. Stillness feels dangerous only when you've never felt safe. Most of us have learned that our worth is tied to our doing, to our productivity, to our usefulness. We've learned that rest is something you earn, that you have to deserve it, that stopping means you're lazy, unmotivated, falling behind. So we keep moving, even when we're exhausted, even when we have nothing left, because stopping feels like exposure. Like if we're not doing something, we're not enough. And that belief runs deep, deeper than logic, deeper than reason. It lives in your nervous system, in the part of you that learned, very early on, that love and safety were conditional, that they depended on your performance, on being good, being helpful, being easy, never asking for too much, never taking up too much space. And so you learn to move, to stay busy, to prove your value over and over, because stillness meant risk. It meant being seen without the armor of achievement. It meant being vulnerable. Just you, without accomplishments to hide behind, without productivity to justify your existence. And that feels unbearable. This is why stillness can trigger fear. Not because there's actual danger, but because your nervous system has learned to associate doing with safety and stopping with threat. So when you finally sit still, your body panics. It floods you with restlessness, with the urge to check something, fix something, do something. Because doing feels like surviving, and being feels like risk. But here's the truth. You don't have to earn your existence. You don't have to justify taking up space. You don't have to be useful to be worthy. You already are. Not because of what you do, but because you are. And learning to stay, to be still without collapsing into shame or panic, is how you rewrite your relationship with quiet. How to stay without collapsing means learning to hold yourself with presence, with gentleness, with the kind of attention you've been giving to everyone and everything else. It means sitting with the discomfort of not doing, and not interpreting that discomfort as evidence that something is wrong. It's not wrong, it's just unfamiliar. Your body is adjusting to a new signal, one that says you're safe, even in stillness. You're worthy even at rest. You're enough even when you're doing nothing. And that signal takes time to believe, because it contradicts everything you've learned, everything you've lived. But it's true. And the more you practice it, the more you allow yourself to just be, the more your nervous system starts to trust it. Stillness stops feeling like danger and starts feeling like home. Not because you changed who you are, but because you stopped performing. You stopped proving. You stopped running from the quiet. And you let yourself land in your own presence, in your own body, in your own life, without needing it to be more than it is, without needing you to be more than you are. Just this, just you, just now, and that's enough. It always was. Part V, a different way to live. Chapter 13. You don't need to be on edge. Peace is not a reward, it's your default state. You weren't born anxious. You weren't born tense. You weren't born scanning for danger in every interaction. That's something you learned, because at some point, being on edge kept you safe. It helped you read the room. Anticipate problems. Protect yourself from hurt. It made sense. It was adaptive. But what was once protection has become prison. Because now you can't turn it off. Even when there's no danger. Even when you're safe. Even when the people around you are kind. You're still braced. Still waiting for the other shoe to drop. Still holding your breath. This is what constant alertness does. It becomes your baseline. You stop noticing how much energy it takes, how much tension you're holding, how much of your life you're experiencing through a filter of fear. And you think this is just who I am, but it's not. It's who you had to become. And you don't have to be that person anymore. You can learn to live without bracing yourself, without assuming the worst, without preparing for disaster at every turn. It doesn't mean you're naive. It doesn't mean you're unprotected. It means you're choosing to trust that you can handle things if they arise, without preemptively carrying the weight of every possible outcome. This is how you return to baseline calm. Not by forcing positivity, not by pretending everything is fine, but by releasing the hypervigilant, by letting your nervous system know I don't need to be on guard right now. I can relax, I can soften, I can be here without armor. And at first it will feel risky, your mind will protest. It will remind you of all the times you let your guard down and got hurt. All the times you trusted and were disappointed. All the reasons you need to stay alert. And you can acknowledge those reasons. You can honor them. But you don't have to live by them anymore. Because the cost of constant vigilance is your presence. Your joy, your ability to be here, now without fear of what comes next. And that cost is too high, so you practice. You practice noticing when you're bracing, and you soften. Just slightly, just enough to feel the difference. You practice breathing without holding. You practice being in a room without scanning it. You practice having a conversation without rehearsing your next response. You practice being here, fully, without the background hum of anxiety. And slowly your nervous system learns I'm safe. I can let go. I can live without being on edge. And peace stops feeling like something you have to earn or achieve. It becomes where you return, again and again. Not because life is perfect, but because you stop treating every moment like a test you have to pass. You stopped living in defense mode, and you started living in presence, in openness, in trust. Not in other people, but in yourself, in your ability to handle life as it comes, without preempting it, without bracing for it, just meeting it. One moment at a time, and that simple return to presence is the peace you've been searching for. Chapter 14. Carrying calm into your day. Calm that disappears isn't calm yet, it's relief. And relief is temporary. It's the momentary easing of tension, the brief exhale after holding your breath. It feels good. But it doesn't last, because it's conditional. It depends on the absence of stress, on everything going smoothly, on nothing triggering you. And life doesn't work that way. Real calm is different. It's not the absence of challenge. It's the presence of groundedness. Even in the middle of noise, even in the middle of chaos, even when things don't go as planned. You stay anchored, not because you're numb, not because you're avoiding, but because you've learned how to move without losing softness. This is what actually changes long term, not the elimination of stress, but your relationship to it. You stop treating every stressor like an emergency. You stop collapsing under pressure. You stop losing yourself in other people's moods. Because you've built an internal reference point, a place inside that stays steady. Not rigid, not hard, but rooted. Like a tree in the wind, you bend, you sway. But you don't break, and you don't blow away. This is how you carry calm into your day. Not by avoiding difficulty, but by meeting it from a different place. From center, from ground, from the quiet knowing that you can handle this. Not because you have all the answers, but because you've learned to stay with yourself. Even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you don't know what to do next. You don't abandon yourself. You don't override your needs. You don't push through at any cost. You pause, you breathe, you check in. What do I actually need right now? Not what should I need, not what would make me look strong. But what do I actually need? And then you honor that. Even if it's small, even if it's inconvenient, even if it disappoints someone else. Because protecting your inner space is not selfish. It's survival, not the desperate kind. The sustainable kind. The kind that lets you show up for your life without depleting yourself. Without giving from an empty cup. Without pretending you're fine when you're falling apart. This is the practice, not perfection. Not never struggling, but coming back. Again and again. To yourself, to your breath, to the ground beneath you, even in the middle of the day, even in the middle of a conversation, even in the middle of a moment where you feel yourself starting to spin. You come back, not later, not when you have time, now. With a single breath, a single pause, a single return to presence, and that return that simple. Repeated return is what trains your nervous system to trust that calm is not fragile. It's not something you lose the moment life gets hard. It's something you can access again and again. No matter what's happening around you, because it's not out there. It's in here in you. And you're learning to find it. Not by escaping, not by numbing. But by staying, by being here, by choosing over and over to meet yourself with kindness, with patience, with the understanding that calm is not a destination, it's a practice. And you're learning it, one day at a time, one breath at a time, one moment of return at a time. Chapter 15. You can come back here anytime. Nothing is wrong with you and never was. You were never broken. You were never too much. You were never beyond help. You were just overwhelmed. And you didn't know how to find your way back. But now you do, not because you fixed yourself, but because you remembered what it feels like to soften, to slow down, to let go. You remembered that calm is not something you have to chase. It's something you return to, again and again. Whenever you need it. This is not a one-time relief. This is not a technique you use once and forget. This is a place, an internal place. And you can come back here anytime, when the world gets loud, when your thoughts start spinning, when the pressure builds, when you feel yourself bracing. You don't have to stay there. You can return. To your breath, to your body, to this quiet, steady place inside you. It's always been here. You just forgot how to find it. But now you remember. And that changes everything. Not because life gets easier, but because you know where to go when it gets hard. You know how to ground yourself, how to interrupt the loop, how to soften instead of brace. This is your internal reset point, and it's not fragile. It's not something you lose. It's something you practice. And the more you return, the easier it becomes. The path becomes familiar. The ground becomes steady. And you start to trust that no matter what happens, you can handle it. Not because you're strong, but because you know how to come home. To yourself, to calm, to presence. And that knowing is everything. It's the difference between surviving and living. Between reacting and responding. Between being at the mercy of your thoughts and being the one who holds them. You're not at the mercy anymore. You're learning to hold yourself. With kindness, with patience, with the understanding that calm is not about never feeling overwhelmed. It's about knowing what to do when you are. And what you do is this. You pause, you breathe, you return to this place, this quiet, steady place, where nothing is required of you, where you don't have to perform, where you don't have to prove anything, where you can just be and rest and soften for as long as you need. Because this place, it's always here, waiting for you, whenever you're ready to return. And ending without urgency means letting you know there's no rush. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be healed by morning. You don't have to never struggle again. You just have to remember. You're not alone in this. You're not broken. You're not beyond reach. You're human. And being human means you'll get overwhelmed sometimes. You'll lose your way. You'll forget how to breathe. And that's okay, because you always have this. This quiet, steady place, this return, this home, and you can come back here anytime, as many times as you need, for the rest of your life. Closing moment. Stay here for a few more seconds, not because you have to, but because for once you don't need to rush anywhere. You're exactly where you need to be. Right here, right now. Breathing, being whole, and that's enough. You're enough. You always were. Take one more breath. Let it be slow. Let it be deep. And when you're ready, carry this with you. Not as something you have to hold on to, but as something you can always return to. Whenever you need to remember you're safe, you're okay, and you can rest. This audiobook is designed to be replayed. Each listen goes deeper.